Spring practice is here for Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, and that means some of the best prospects across the country invaded Athens this past week to watch the Dogs get after it during practice, right? So we've got a whole bunch of recruiting scoop over on dogpost.com. I got multiple recruiting stories. That's where the five-star Georgia fans are. So if you're looking for the latest on the team, practice updates, recruiting updates, that's where you need to be, dogpost.com. But I definitely wanted to come on here and share some elite recruiting notes for you because, as you know, this is where the five-star Georgia fans are, right? They're on Dogpost and they're watching this channel. So I definitely wanted to share some news because I got some updates on several big-time prospects who had a lot to say about the Dogs after watching practice and watching how Kirby Smart coaches, how these players are getting after it. And yeah, we have some big-time quotes. So wanted to come on here and share. So the first guy I want to talk about is one of the top defensive back prospects, not only in Georgia, not only across the South, but across the country, and that's Jordan Smith. He is out of Houston County, right in the middle of the state of Georgia. He is a major Bulldog target. Here's what he had to say after watching Georgia practice last Tuesday. Quote, "When watching practice, I learned a lot about how some of Coach Smart's philosophies on coaching on the defensive side of the ball. My biggest takeaway was how the players responded when being coached. They weren't getting defensive or insulted. They applied what the coaches told them and did it right the next time. It shows the trust they have in the staff. The standard there also stood out, and that's definitely something that catches my eye every time I'm at Georgia." Again, this is a playmaking safety. He's the number 7 safety prospect in the country, number 106 overall in the country. So this is a borderline top 100 kid whose ranking could improve over time. He had 85 tackles for the Bears last year, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions in coverage with 7 more pass breakups, 1 fumble recovery, 1 forced fumble. Definitely an in-state guy to keep an eye on that Georgia likes a lot. They also extended an offer to a 2026 versatile defensive back. Made a lot of plays for Harrison High School last year. He'll now be at Kell. His name is Joel Combe, 6'2", 190. 93 tackles, 3 interceptions last fall. Here's what he had to say about earning his Georgia offer. He said, "The Georgia offer brought a grin to my face. I'm humbled to be in this position, and Georgia's the home team, so it feels even more special. Everyone knows Georgia is the standard for college football, and that's what makes or breaks certain guys. I want a good education and a career in the NFL, and Georgia is one of the few schools who offer that." So definitely another in-state guy to keep an eye on out of Kell High School. Moving right along, let's go back to Houston County. This wide receiver, you know what? Let's go to Carrollton first. Making our way over to Carrollton, Ryan Mosley is one of my favorite wide receiver prospects in the country. Every year there's a few guys who I completely disagree with as far as the other outlets and where they rank guys. Ryan Mosley, apparently just the number 11 athlete, number 217 overall prospect in the country. I'm sorry if you can hear my daughter. She's waking up from a nap. I'm going to try to turn this down quickly as I talk. But Ryan Mosley is big time. He said after watching practice, quote, "Watching practice showed me you better go out there with everything you've got in you. They all push each other to be better. Georgia's special because since I was a little boy, I've always loved Georgia, and to get the opportunity to play for them is a huge blessing." They're recruiting him to play, as an athlete. I love him at wide receiver. 6'2", 205, so he's got some size. Caught 55 passes last year for 850 yards and a team-leading 12 touchdowns. I'm sorry about this. Oh, I zoomed it instead of turning it down. My wife's going to come get her eventually, but she is waking up from a nap, so if you heard that, I apologize. Just part of being a dad here on the weekend. So Ryan Mosley is definitely a wide receiver that I think Georgia fans should know a ton about in this recruiting class. And if I had to make a pick right now, I would pick Georgia for him. I think he's better than number 217 overall. I think he's probably a borderline top 15 prospect in the state, but he's a guy that I think more than other people. And it's early, but I do think Georgia's sitting in a really good position for one of the best two-way athletes in the state and a really impressive wide receiver. So now let's go back to Houston County. Kayon Conarro. Kayon Conarro is a fast-rising wide receiver. He picked up a bunch of offers in January and February. One of them was from Georgia, and he was back in Athens with Jordan Smith, his Houston County teammate. Here's what Kayon Conarro had to say about Georgia's practice. Quote, "I learned the way things are I learned the way things are ran and the level of execution that is expected at Georgia. My biggest takeaway from practice was the way the players took criticism and applied it and responded in a positive way. For me, what makes Georgia special is the way they develop guys, put their players in the best position to succeed, and the way they have a standard that builds you on and off the field. So he's a guy that's not ranked by the other outlets right now. I will probably rank him before they all do. So make sure you head over to Dawg Post for the latest on him. Now, as I'm talking, Jared Curtis, 5-star quarterback. I didn't want to go through this whole video without talking about him. He's still on his multi-day visit to Athens, so I don't have quotes from him just yet. Javen Osborne, a 4-star running back out of Texas, a guy that I wasn't sure if Georgia had a real shot at, but this is his second visit to Athens this year. He was here, I believe, early February for a junior day. He's back to see his spring practice. He's already been tweeting a little bit about his Georgia visit. I hope to have some quotes about him today. And you're watching this on Saturday. So earlier today, a lot of big-time prospects were back in town. Tyreek Green out of Buford is a two-way athlete, one of the best, again, in the state. I think Georgia likes him at defensive back, but he could play all over the field. Graham Houston is a 4-star offensive lineman that I believe is in town today. There's kids at Cartersville, Brady Marchese. I hope I said that correctly. He is a 3-star wide receiver who, again, just added a bunch of offers this winter. One of them was from Georgia. This is, I believe, his second or third visit so far this year. So he's a guy to keep an eye on in the state of Georgia. So a lot going on, no doubt about it. All these players, especially in the state right now, a lot of in-state targets going out to Athens to check out a spring practice. Of course, we talked about 5-star Tyler Atkinson, 5-star linebacker, one of the best overall players in the country, top 10 player in the country, I believe. He was there on Tuesday to check out Georgia's first spring practice. He is right now at Oregon this weekend. Still a guy to keep an eye on and someone I think Georgia sits in a good position for. An out-of-state guy who is in town, Corey Barber, a 4-star wide receiver out of Spain Park, so around that Birmingham area. Also, praying for everyone's safety. Apparently, there's supposed to be like crazy storms coming through. A lot of tornadoes coming through Mississippi and Alabama and into Georgia, the Atlanta area tonight. I think my area is going to get hit like in the middle of the night. But it's all good. It's all good. We're ready. Bring it on. Not really, but we'll be all right. Anyway, Corey Barber plays out of Birmingham. He's a 4-star who is one of the more productive wide receivers in the state of Alabama last year. Caught 73 passes, 1,424 yards, 17 touchdowns in 13 games, 6'1", 180. Another guy who earned his Georgia offer this winter. Here's what he had to say watching Georgia practice. He said, "What I learned from watching practice today was that Coach Kirby is all about business. He does not play games. He's a great coach, and his entire coaching staff matches his energy. My biggest takeaway from the visit would have to be just that the coaching is elite. If you want to be great and you aren't afraid to be pushed and tested, Athens is one of those places to develop you. I also like their offense and their schemes to create opportunities for their receivers. What makes them special is their mix of everything. They have a great facility, great coaching, and they have a winning pedigree." This is a guy that's not really ranked super high. That's not going to really excite Georgia fans. Just the number 52 wide receiver, number 306 overall. You turn on the film, which I did last week after hearing from him. And again, you can read all of this over on Dawg Post with highlights. This kid's better than the number 52 wide receiver in the country. There's a reason Georgia offered him. And I think when the other outlets start updating these rankings, this young man will see a boost. He is a playmaking machine who again scored 17 touchdowns in 13 games, playing at a very high level of football in the state of Alabama. Kid can play, and I think he's an out-of-state guy that really likes Georgia and what they have to offer. And again, I hear from parents and coaches and trainers and kids all the time during spring practice about how different Georgia does it. They really get after it. It is intense. I remember this time a couple years ago speaking with Ryan Montgomery's father, who brought Ryan in town early in his recruitment process. And I spoke with his dad, and he said it's just different. They're practicing at a different level. The intensity is not like just what you see at practices across the country. They're getting after it. You can hear Kirby Smart from one side of the field to the other, barking out commands and coaching these guys from 50 yards away. It's detail-oriented. They're very specific about how they do their drills, how they practice. It's very vocal. There's a lot of energy, and that starts with Kirby Smart and the rest of his staff, who do a great job of bringing energy and intensity to the practices. But just a few guys that I want to share. You can read all about them more on Dawg Post, and I've got other recruiting notes, recruiting updates that I've got to type up. So it's busy time on Dawg Post. So make sure you sign up to our newsletter because a lot of these stories are free. You don't get free stories everywhere. You can get a lot of free stories over on Dawg Post. Again, practice notes. We've got more of those coming throughout the spring, and I've got, again, a lot of recruiting notes that I'm still sitting on that I've got to type up. So make sure you're heading over to the website. But yeah, Ryan Mosley, Jordan Smith, Kayon Conarro, Corey Barber, a lot of guys that you can read about that I think are very high on Georgia after watching a practice last week. And again, there's a lot more kids who are on campus in town right now that I hope to have updates on early next week. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you over on the website.